Northwestern fan, you have to be completely ecstatic to find out that your school hired Chip Kelly to be your new offensive coordinator. And when I woke up this morning at around 5:30 a.m. and I found out about this hire, I thought somebody was punking me. I thought somebody was fooling me, and then it turns out that it's legit. And if you're Northwestern, I think this kind of puts a bow just on how great your offseason has been, right? Going into the 2026 season that your $800 million plus new Ryan Field is supposed to be open. You have a guy in David Braun who's been 19-19 over the past 3 seasons with a pair of bowl wins, and certainly seems like the guy that can lead you in this new era of Northwestern football. And also, the class of 2026 is their highest ranked group in David Braun's 3-year tenure as head coach. And 54th in the nation is, it's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. 14th in the Big Ten, which is not terrible. But what they did get is their first 4-star recruit under David Braun. They got Jaden McDuffie, a highly talented wide receiver. And not to mention, too, you got your record for your largest recruiting class since 2003. And that really is a testament to Northwestern investing in their football team and trusting their process, and most importantly, just staying the course and being committed. And that's kind of hard to find in this day and age of college football. And especially when you're competing in the Big Ten, it's a big testament to not only the coaching staff, but also the administration, the donors, and also the athletic department for really kind of putting this together. But most importantly, tie this all in together. What does this mean for the football program for them to get Chip Kelly? First and foremost, you have a veteran guy who has not only coached in the NFL with the Eagles and the Raiders and the 49ers, but you also have a guy that's been an offensive coordinator essentially all over the country, whether it was the beginning of his career at New Hampshire to the late 2000s at Oregon, and now at Ohio State, and then you're a head coach at UCLA for about 6 seasons, and here you are now. So he has an extensive experience in the now Big Ten. He was the offensive coordinator when Ohio State won the national championship game, and there's just not really much to be critical about, because let's just say, even if this doesn't work out at all, let's say that let's just say, hypothetically speaking, even if it turned out that Chip Kelly's play calling, which I don't believe this is, by the way, let's say it was completely outdated and everybody just kind of had his number, right? What's the worst that can happen? You're hiring a guy in Chip Kelly who has essentially done just about everything in his career at this point. So why not take a job like Northwestern where he can sit back and, quite frankly, just enjoy football, right? I think that's really what this hire says to me if you're Chip Kelly. And it also drives home the fact that a lot of the similar reasons why he left UCLA are probably coming back full circle now. One of the big criticisms that he got at UCLA was his unwillingness to recruit or talk to donors or anything like that. And at Northwestern, you don't have to do that because the school sells itself. The school is primarily academically driven. They've been relatively consistent, whether it was under Pat Fitzgerald or now under David Braun. So you know what you're going to get with this kind of school. And most importantly, there's really no pressure for him to succeed at all. And I think that's kind of a perfect recipe for a guy like Chip Kelly, who's replacing Northwestern play caller Zach Lejean. And going into this, it's going to be a tough project for him, right? Because they rank 96th in the country in total scoring and offense. So there is going to be a little bit of a learning curve. But at the same time, too, they brought in a senior guy, Preston Stone, who was quarterbacking at SMU before he got hurt and ultimately ended up getting taken over by Kevin Jennings. But at least at Northwestern, you have the foundation to be successful, and any sort of criticism that you can possibly put on Chip Kelly essentially doesn't really matter, because if you're Northwestern, you're not asking Chip Kelly to come to Northwestern to recruit for you. You want him as the play caller, and you want him as essentially an advisor. That's really what you're getting. Because what Chip Kelly really enjoys more than anything is just being a play caller and just enjoying the X's and O's of football. I think that's really deep down what he wants to do. And I think when you first read the headline, you're kind of saying to yourself, well, why would he want to do that, right? Out of all the schools, Northwestern, especially since, he talked to other schools like Georgia Tech and North Carolina. But, he has experience in the Big Ten already. And Northwestern already kind of has the foundation to be a relatively successful team. Now, are there going to be challenges there? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're number 15 in the Big Ten in terms of scoring, when you have that academic part of the equation, that's always going to be perhaps a little bit of a power struggle at times. But at the same time, he's been the head coach at UCLA. So if anybody can understand what those barriers can be like, it's a guy like Chip Kelly. So to me, this just seems like a home run hire. It seems like an absolute no-brainer if you're a school like Northwestern to bring in a guy like Chip Kelly. And, just to kind of wrap this all up too, the only other pushback you can really give if you are a Northwestern fan is, I think it's definitely at least worth mentioning a little bit just in terms of what UCLA's home attendance was under Chip Kelly. Under Chip Kelly, the Bruins, they averaged their first four worst home attendance numbers since moving to the Rose Bowl in 1982. In his last season, averaging just shy of 47,600 people in their home games. So he can be a little bit of a polarizing figure at times, but he's a guy that speaks his truth. He's a guy that's a veteran. He's a guy that's experienced. And I think if you're Northwestern too, I think it's also going to open up your eyes a little bit more to kind of the creativity and perhaps a new identity offensively, because a lot of what Chip Kelly did in his early tenures is, he primarily brought in guys that, kind of fit in with that RPO scheme, right? But now, since he's been in a guy who's an expert in a bunch of variable systems throughout his NFL and college football career, he's worked with all the big names of the sport that you can possibly imagine. So for him to be thriving not only in the NFL, but in college football, and for him to kind of get a reset compared to the shit show that he was under with the Raiders, it just seems like an absolute no-brainer for Northwestern, and it just seems like a really good fit. So I'm really excited to see pans out, specifically what they do in the transfer portal, and also to just kind of how their offense ends up looking going into the 2026-2027 season.